Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media, St. Louis's home for arts, education, and culture.
The gallery is full of art that is fun and positive.
It does make you feel content in your own skin, literally.
People can be many things at once. You know, we're not just all one thing.
Today on Spotlight, a riveting novel about what it's like to grow up homeless. Plus, inside the new modern and inviting showroom for local artists. And then helping people feel empowered through tattoos. But first, the exhibit showcasing the newly revised Tyrannosaur family tree. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
We're here at the St. Louis Science Center's new special exhibition, Tyrannosaur, Meet the Family. You're going to see all kinds of interactive experiences that are going to teach you more about the Tyrannosaurus family. Tyrannosaurus is actually a superfamily as well as being the species Tyrannosaurus rex. And that's a little confusing, but the way that we think about it is that Tyrannosaurus rex has some qualities to it that are unique to it. However, there are species before Tyrannosaurus rex that show some of the same qualities. And it's not just the short arms that a lot of people think of. There are sizes of the legs in relation to the size of the arms. There are fused nasal bones, D-shaped teeth, which are really good for crunching down on their prey. And so even though you're going to see tyrannosaurs in this exhibition that are quite small, they are in the same family line and lead up to that ultimate tyrannosaur in the Tyrannosaurus rex. You know, one of the biggest reasons an exhibition like this might exist is, you might remember when you were a kid, you probably were super into dinosaurs. I was too, and most of our friends might have been, but a lot's changed since I was a kid, and probably since you were a child as well, in that we've learned more about how these dinosaurs behaved. We've discovered more dinosaur species that may be related to one another. We've learned things like some of them had feathers on top of having scales. We've seen them from all different sizes and learned more about their ecosystems. So with all that information in mind, this is a great opportunity for your whole family to come out and see all of those new pieces of data come together in real life to be able to see them and feel them and understand it on a more intuitive, experiential level. There are some of those fossils and fossil casts that you're used to, but it can be really hard to understand what exactly these fossils are showing you. So one of the ways that we help get around that is by putting you in immersive elements that make it feel as though you're walking among the dinosaurs. And in some of those, you're going to feel like you're in St. Louis seeing a T-Rex running around, which is pretty fun. But there's also some hands-on interactive elements. That's because we know everybody learns a little bit differently. Having the ability to interact with the screen that'll show you all of the parts of a tyrannosaur that help us know that it's part of the species, or finding out what time periods different tyrannosaur species may have lived in, those are really important. One of the reasons that we spend so much time still thinking about dinosaurs is that learning about how other ecosystems behave with other apex predators, with other interactions, tells us a lot more about how life on Earth evolves. But it can also tell us a lot about how life on Earth stops. And what I mean by that are mass extinction events, like what happened to the dinosaurs. Not everything died out. Those that were left behind created whole new ecosystems with whole new rules to learn. And those processes are really important to us right now, as we may be experiencing some of these same things. This exhibition is great for your whole family because it's going to have those elements that a little kid may understand, but there's going to be some parts where the adults can help out. And we're encouraging everybody to work together. We're hoping that everybody will kind of see these interactives as a way to interact with one another, and that the whole group can learn from it. This exhibition is going to be running here until January 24th, and if you need any more information or would like some tickets, check us out at slsc.org.
HEC Media. Recognized. Celebrated. Honored time and again for excellence in the industry. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
In 2013, the story of a remarkable 11-year-old took up the covers of 5 issues of the New York Times. Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter Andrea Elliott introduced Dasani Coates with all of her resilience, intelligence, and potential, bringing a human face to the city's population of homeless children. In her new book, Invisible Child: Poverty, Survival, and Hope in an American City, Elliott expands on her New York Times series. Following Dasani and her family for close to 10 years, Invisible Child is a heartbreaking but ultimately inspiring story of one little girl, but also a moving investigation on the impact of structural racism and the many ways our support systems fail to help vulnerable families. For today's conversation, Andrea Elliott is joined by Chris Krameyer, President and CEO of Beyond Housing.
Tell us a little bit about kind of the genesis of the book. You're an investigative reporter for the New York Times, and this kind of spawned from that. And then 7-8 years later, there was a book. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so sure. It all began in October of 2012 when, as a reporter for the New York Times, I was standing outside a homeless shelter in Brooklyn. And I was trying to find a way into a really big story, which was the city's homeless crisis. And specifically also the city's population of children who were living that crisis every day. At that time, there were more than 22,000 children in the city's shelters. And I just wanted to find one. And I'll never forget the moment I saw Dasani and her family. They were walking out of the shelter. Her mom was at the front, walking like a drill sergeant, and her children were right behind her in single line formation. And something about that image just grabbed me immediately and has stayed with me ever since, because it says so much about them as a family, that they relied on one another, and that they had such a strength in their bond and such an attitude of community. I from the very beginning just noticed that about Dasani in particular, that she was constantly putting everyone else ahead of herself. And that wasn't because she thought it was a principled thing. It was just how you existed in this family. You were a part of a collective. And she just stood out. She was 11 years old and she grabbed my attention. Everything that came out of her mouth, I wanted to write down. She was precocious and funny and smart. And she was on the honor roll at her school, athletic, so many talents that from the outside, you'd think, oh, this kid's a superstar. And when you get inside her life, you go back into the shelter, into her real life, which is one room crammed with 10 family members. It's a mouse-infested room because the city, which funded the shelter, had let it fall apart. You just see the limits of her life and the fact that she wasn't able to be the star that she could have been because she was so she was struggling so much just to get through the day. And so this book is very much about one girl's survival as she comes of age. So many things happened. It's why it took as long as it did, almost a decade, because I continued to just be totally surprised by the things that would happen to this family, and then the way that they, and Dasani in particular, rose to the challenge again and again, and just reached within herself and got this strength to get through. But nothing about it was predictable. People can be many things at once. You know, we're not just all one thing. This monolithic treatment of, especially the poor, as a story of suffering or as a family that is dysfunctional, rather than suffering in the background contrasted with joy. There's a lot of joy in this story and a lot of levity. This family is functional in extraordinary ways and also dysfunctional.
I think that notion of the strength it takes, you know, quite frankly, to be poor, right? The mental strength, the physical strength, what it takes to survive. Again, I think most folks just don't really understand or have anywhere near the appreciation that they should, given, again, the context of someone's challenging life. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Scan the QR code on your screen with your phone's camera to watch the full interview and find out how Dasani's family is doing today. You could also head to hecmedia.org.
Scan the QR code on your screen to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
We are at the gallery located in the district in Chesterfield, and our purpose is to provide a platform for local as well as international artists and enhance the whole interactive experience here at the district. This all got started not that long ago, a few months ago. Late May, early June, we had a conversation, Michael Steinberg and I, about the new district and the opening of the factory and the need for an art gallery. Michael Steinberg is an avid collector, and he has spent a lot of time providing art for many facilities, as well as for his own home and office and friends. We thought that this would be a great place to be able to display his art and also be able to promote the art in the district. I'm really excited about the gallery because of the philanthropic things that Michael does. I am super happy to be involved with someone who spends a huge amount of their time, energy, and money giving back to the community, not only here in Missouri, but in other states like Colorado and Nebraska, Kansas, pretty much anywhere that Michael lives or does business, he has touched the community personally. So it's nice to be involved with a company that isn't all about gaining financially, but giving back to the community, and that's why I'm really excited. What the gallery brings to the district is something that we hope is going to be ongoing throughout the district, an interactive experience, so that when you come into the gallery, you're going to see all sorts of beautiful art, you're going to meet artists, and you're going to walk away with an experience of meeting and getting to know them. In the district in general, the whole district is going to be an interactive experience. We have the factory, which is our new concert venue, on one end, and we have Main Event and Topgolf on the other. We're going to be adding restaurants and spas, and we hope that you will come to the district and have dinner, see a concert, see a show, visit the art gallery, play some pickleball, and have that one sort of stop activity center. The gallery is full of art that mainly is fun and colorful. We like funky and we like weird and positive art. We're also hoping that in the spring that we can begin showcasing art by rockers, and you will have the opportunity to not only hear them in concert at the factory, but meet them here in the gallery when they have a show and get to know them on a whole other level. All the artists that are in our gallery, Michael knows personally and has been a big fan of theirs for many, many years, and this is just another way for him to be able to support them. We hope that you come and enjoy the gallery located at the district in Chesterfield, and for more information, you can visit our website at thegallerystl.com.
On January 11th, 1822, the Great Seal of the State of Missouri was adopted, designed to encompass all the things that made Missouri special. The bears symbolize strength and bravery of its people, and the stars signify Missouri's status as the 24th state. Below the state motto is the Roman numeral for 1820, the year Missouri began to function as a state, although statehood wasn't established until 1821.
I'm Laura Bonfanti, and I'm the owner and one of the artists at Cousin Paul's Tattoo Company in St. Louis, Missouri. I wanted to open a business where established artists could really be able to earn a good living. I do booth rental here, so the artists are responsible for themselves. The rent is cheap enough that they are going to be able to make a little bit more money than they will at a percentage shop and build a good life for themselves. We meet with the client. We look at some of the images that they might provide us as reference, and then we draw something specific for them. So it takes a little bit more time. There's definitely a benefit for the client and for myself to feel like we're creating something together that's special. The bond that you get with your client is something that you really have to take seriously and treat with a lot of respect, because they do feel vulnerable, they do relax, they do open up, they tell you stuff that they don't tell anybody else. So that trust bond and that respect that you build with people is really important. It's important to me that the shop is a safe space for everybody. We take the comfort of everyone in the room seriously, because at the core, you know, when you're getting tattooed, you just want to be able to let go and you want to be able to relax because it hurts. Historically, you go back to tribal societies and even modern tribal societies, the women are the medicine people or shamans, and they are the ones that administer the tattoo. And it's a healing process. It's a rite of passage. It's a trial because of the pain, but it's also a nurturing environment. And I think that that's something that a lot of women tattooers bring into the business. I talked to this guy that he's a minister, Christian minister, and he says tattooing is the new confessional, and it's really true. And he's like looking to make the same connections with people, so he studies this and he tries to teach about it. The tattoo can become like almost like a talisman for you, and it makes you feel empowered. It helps you on to the next quest, if you will. So I think that that's at the core of a lot of people's motivation for getting tattooed. I've had clients over the years that I've gotten to know pretty personally, and as they got more heavily tattooed, they became themselves, if you will. It's like having the tattoo empowered them to embrace who they are at their core some type of way. And once they get a lot of tattoos, and I guess some sort of way they feel like they've successfully worn their inside on the outside for a while, it does make you feel content in your own skin, literally. It does make you feel powerful.
A look at the city's old firehouses later on Spotlight.
It's a busy day at this small production facility in St. Louis as Angela Zhang examines sprouts and other ingredients that will go into the wellness drinks she first developed 4 years ago.
Many industry experts thought I was crazy. I was set up for failure.
The popular drink is a top seller on Amazon. It's also in local grocery stores and in 15 states outside Missouri. It's a dream that's rooted in Zhang's childhood. She grew up in Shenzhen, a large city in China. As a child, she went to a traditional Chinese medicine doctor with her mother.
So I remember the moment when I walked into that little herbal medicine shop, I was just fascinated. It was almost like, to me, walking to a toy shop during Christmas season. Those little wooden drawers.
She says it's a miracle she survived because as a teenager, she experimented with herbs and different remedies.
My parents still joke about, be careful with what you put into your body, when you do those crazy remedy creations.
Her pursuit of good health never stopped. With an undergraduate degree in biochemistry, she moved to America in 1996 to earn her PhD in pathology at St. Louis University.
For me, it was molecular and cell biology to study why people get sick at molecular level.
She later studied business at Washington University and went into pharmaceutical sales. She and her husband started a family, and with that came a renewed interest in healthy living.
As a busy working mom, we want to always grab something that's convenient, easy to go. On the other hand, most of the things that's convenient, easy to go, unfortunately, are not that healthy.
Unhappy with the sugar and chemicals added to most drinks marketed to families, Zhang started making juices in her kitchen and came up with the name Karuna.
Right, so basically it says compassion to your own body, to your own mind, right? You need to take care of yourself. And then compassion to your friends, your family, of course, people around you.
Zhang had to overcome stereotypes as she worked to develop her brand.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge for every immigrant. Doesn't matter what you do as an entrepreneur or working in a large corporation, is to fit in.
Early advisors suggested she solely market her drinks to the Chinese community.
That's not how I designed this line for. It's not a Chinese food serving a Chinese restaurant. It is for everyone to empower them to actually use food to improve their health.
She convinced the then manager of the local Whole Foods store to try her cold-pressed juices, which she says use natural ingredients from around the world.
He said, wow, we never see anything like this, and your concept is great and the taste is good. So he took that, he gave me the chance to try to sell in his store.
That led to another encounter inside Whole Foods with Rodney Boyd, an influential St. Louis businessman who became one of Zhang's biggest supporters.
Right, I'll see someone saying, well, I'm going to bring the best of Eastern, holistic, Eastern ideals and health and nutrition into a Western space. But never had I met somebody that literally, by their very being, embodied that. That was more intriguing to me. And then the fact that she was in St. Louis, in the city of St. Louis, woman-owned. I mean, it kept getting more and more profound to me.
Boyd encouraged Zhang, who by then had moved to this small production facility, to branch out. More introductions were made.
If you get people in St. Louis excited about a product or service, the world is your marketplace, because we're a tough crowd. Like we get into a routine and we can live and die in that.
We cannot keep selling products that have sugar level even higher than Coke and Pepsi.
Zhang has now been featured in magazines and travels the world spreading the word about her product, and appeared on a show called The New Beverage Showdown. With success comes a pressure to grow.
When you're local, you can make everything small batch, freshly made, right? So it's more in tune to your local consumers' needs. When you scale up, you have to think about economy of scale, you have to think about distribution, you have to think about lowering costs. You start to move away from what you started with, those philosophy or principle. So there's always this constant dilemma.
Zhang has several opportunities on the horizon. For now, she plans to stay centered in St. Louis and hopes her product, a blend of her life history and passion, will be shared by others.
Go to hecmedia.org for the arts and authors,
Completely accidental because I never set out to write a book.
science and history, culture and community,
Considered to be the oldest organic farm west of the Mississippi.
education, films,
Finding the coin places the site firmly in the 13th century.
what's happening now around St. Louis, and more. See for yourself at hecmedia.org. Until you are required to stop in front of one of them, most of us give fire stations just a passing glance. And yet the history of St. Louis's firehouses gives color and context to the history of the city itself.
There are 11 stations presently that are over 100 years old. They first talked about the fire service in the 18 teens, and then in 1857, St. Louis became only the second paid fire department in the United States.
The history of those houses is told in an elaborate book with the no-frills title, St. Louis Fire Stations. It is a pictorial history of the city's firehouses, based mostly on collections belonging to firefighter Dennis Magg and fire department historian Robert Pauley. Both men took many of the pictures themselves. Robert Pauley began photographing local firehouses back in the 1960s using a Kodak Brownie, famous for being one of the cheapest cameras ever made.
I don't drive. I never have driven, so I had to take the bus, and I thought it was safer that way, having an inexpensive camera.
In the beginning, St. Louis's first firefighters were all volunteers who rode to fires not in a high-horsepower truck, but with real horsepower, which is why the city used to have a horse hospital. The last run using horses was in 1927.
And Tom and Jerry and Monk and Strawberry were the last 4 horses we had.
Many of those first firehouses were as pretty as they were practical, though in some cases the authors only know half the story.
Quite a few of the photographs, we only had the lower half. We never could find a complete picture of what the station looked like top to bottom.
There are plenty of pictures of this familiar fire station at South Kings Highway and Christie. When it opened in 1926, it became the city's 53rd station, the highest number of firehouses the city ever had.
Today they operate from 30 stations. One of the reasons for the number of stations going down was motorization. Motorized apparatus was quicker than the horses, so with the response times and everything, they started closing stations.
There are lots of other tidbits in the book, like pictures of so-called joker rooms, where a firefighter at each house sat monitoring alarms instead of fighting fires. The men were selected for that unpopular duty using a deck of cards. Whoever got the joker got the job. The book has several pictures of the Underwriters Salvage Corps. What was that?
They would work alongside the firefighters, and what they would do is say if a fire was on the 5th floor, the Salvage Corps would go to the 4th floor, and they would take the items that were in the building there and take them to an area where the water perhaps wasn't flowing down. They'd put it all in the center of the room. They would cover it with a canvas tarp, and that would protect the items there from damage.
Reedy Press originally printed 2,000 copies of the book, which sold out quickly. A second printing is coming soon. But no matter how many copies are sold, it won't make the authors rich. Both men have directed the publisher to send any royalties owed to them to the Backstoppers instead, the organization that supports the families of first responders killed in the line of duty. Do you think most firefighters know the history or care about the history of their own stations?
It's becoming more popular now than it used to be. Back then they didn't really care, it was just a job to them. But now you can tell by certain stations, they have a lot of pictures and other memorabilia displayed throughout the firehouse. It's kind of a pride thing, I guess.
And I think that's fascinating that that they're taking on that history. A lot of the new generation of the fire service just see it's a different generation of people even when I came on, and a lot of them spend their time on their phone all the time or looking at computers, and for this to have helped those younger generation firefighters respect and acknowledge and want to carry on that history, I think is wonderful.
29, 14, 7, 1, 17, booking letter 2, 804, 802, squad 2, 87, respond. A first alarm for a report of a fire at the warehouse service, 3937 Farm.
Next week, meet St. Louis native Shadale Johnson, who recently was a contestant on The Voice. Plus, a year in the life of 2 dog sledders. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.